Welcome back, everybody, to the Objective Slant. My name is Michael Aaron Lloyd, and what I promised you last month has been finally achieved. We have a glorious young person here who is ready and willing to talk socialism and all the caveats that come with it, you know, all the pros, all the cons, and everything like that. And it's gonna be great. So here he is right here next to me. What's your name, sir? What's your major, I guess, you know?
My name is Isaac. I'm a sociology major, freshman, class of 2022.
Nice to meet you, man. I appreciate you coming on the program. First guest we've had since October. So, you know, it's always an honor and always a pleasure to have people that are willing to come and talk serious topic points and whatnot, you know, just to, you know, get the mind moving and everything like that. Obviously, you know the whole socialist movement and everything. Are you a socialist by any chance?
I am a socialist, indeed.
Great.
Great.
So, so can you maybe elaborate on some of the policies, you know, that you believe in, you know?
Wow, that's a lot to unpack, obviously.
We have plenty of time.
That's the big question, right? What the hell is socialism? The question that everyone asks, and nobody seems to be able to answer.
Yeah.
Being that, to me, describing socialism per se it's a lot like, it's like trying to describe an H.P. Lovecraft monster, right? It's like you can describe a general idea and you can describe what it's not, but going into its particulars is precarious because it is something from a Marxian perspective. It's just something that has not physically manifested in our timeline, and now many people would object to that and say, "Oh no, but you know the USSR tried it. That was socialism in practice." But here's the thing: they don't know what they're talking about because they've never read a word of Marx, and most likely if they make that conjecture, being that. From point of Marxist analysis, a socioeconomic system doesn't just precipitate in one century and just vanishes the next, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of it's like no backseas. It's a what's the word? It's just an irreversible process. Such as, because of course he didn't see like capitalism pop up for just a couple decades and just like vanish, during the era of feudalism. Once those wheels started turning in motion, it's just an inevitable process. So setting the record straight. Socialism is not a set of government policy. It's not a lifestyle. Socialists can have, of course, we have policy, a set of policies that we support in our current capitalist state of affairs. But talking socialism in it of itself is a completely different ballpark. Because it is something that is precipitated by a complete paradigm shift in the way that we produce, consume, and distribute commodities. Because for example, with feudalism, slave society, that precipitated, of course, with the Neolithic Revolution, where we have agriculture, where we have domesticated cattle and pets. We are able to have settled civilized society. And of course we couldn't not have capitalism until we have the Industrial Revolution. So what I'm trying to get at is that there needs to be a substantial qualitative sociopolitical like event for a new socioeconomic system to truly manifest. And as a socialist now, I would argue that we are on the verge of that event being the advent of automation and AI technology. Because when you think about it, I mean, of course, it changes virtually everything when the vast majority, we have the capability for the vast majority of the production of commodities to be just completely automated and have that burden lifted from the shoulders of manual labor, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Like I said, it's a very broad topic. It's kind of hard to keep a constant flow of, the constant flow narrative to properly explicate all the ins about it. Did you have any follow-up questions?
Yeah. So what kind of policies do you think would work here? Like if they were, I don't know. Let me start with the Green New Deal first.
Right.
Yeah, because wanted to address Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal and the policies that she's trying to implement, I guess, on a greater scale here.
Right.
And do you think that any one of the proposed things would work here? Like for example,
I mean, asking if they would work, of course they would work, because we're the wealthiest country on earth. We have the means to do just about anything if we so wished. Of course, most socialists are completely behind with all the stipulations and proposals within the Green New Deal. The thing is that from a socialist perspective, it's simply not going to happen without a mass movement from below, right? Because if you look at the exigence for the original New Deal with FDR, it didn't just come out of thin air by his own wisdom and benevolence. And this is, of course, something that is not widely talked about in regarding to the New Deal, but its exigence was largely predicated on constant acute pressure from the Communist Party, from both socialist parties at the time, both major socialist parties, and the trade unions, who basically at the time, in correspondence with the FDR administration, they were basically given an ultimatum, basically saying, this is in the smack dab in the middle of the Great Depression, obviously.
Yeah.
Saying, okay, people are starving, people are homeless, millions are suffering right now. So here's the deal. You are going to give us a new deal. We need job programs. We need to put people to work. We need job security. We need all these things we need all these social security programs. And if this does not happen, there is going to be trouble. There's going to be general strike. There's going to be mass civil disobedience, and there may even be insurrection. And that was the kind of acute pressure that set the FDR administration on the path to actually ratifying that. And we see in Congress now that there needs to be that same sort of pressure on our elected officials, because as you've seen with probably you remember the Feinstein ordeal, and is that San Francisco?
Oh no, I haven't heard of that.
Well, this was kind of a case in point of example of where exactly our representatives are from a psychological point of view. Basically, these group of elementary school to teenage kids came with posters and stuff, asking Senator Feinstein to support the Green New Deal, and it's, instead of giving a polite politician no, she just went straight up saying, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm a professional here. I know what I'm doing." And basically, basically telling these kids to F off without any pomp or circumstance. And that really just kind of confirms, in a way that it just confirms that our representatives are beholden to this trustee, model of representation, right?
Yeah.
And it's no secret, like our, Poli-Sci 2306 teaches this to us verbatim.
Interesting.
Right.
Interesting.
That, basically saying, public opinion is kind of an afterthought, and the representation is based on, the personal discretion of the representative. And it's, in a mass technological age that we're living in, where we can collect data at an unprecedented level, there's really, it's really kind of ridiculous to think that, we can't hold representatives directly accountable to public opinion at this point.
Yeah.
Right now in France, that's what the entire struggle, the Yellow Vest movement in France is all about, with trying to ratify a citizens' referendum where they are demanding the right to be able to directly vote on legislation, or demanding to directly vote on repealing certain legislation, to be able to directly amend the Constitution, and to be able to impeach politicians. Mm-hmm. And there's really no, there's really no logical argument against that, unless you are in a position of, in the upper echelons of the ruling class, and you don't want that because you do not want working class, you do not want representatives directly held accountable to working class interests.
Fair enough.
Right.
So basically, what do you think about paying people that just don't simply want to work, like paying like a minimum federal wage, I guess? How do you think of that?
Universal basic income, you mean?
Yeah, that.
Well, that is just kind of the Band-Aid over the broader issue now, isn't it? Of course, as a socialist in the current state of affairs, I support higher wages, better job security for all, but in the end, getting towards establishing socialism, it's not about redistributing wealth per se. Well, it's about redistributing physical wealth, like resources, shelter, and that sort of thing. But not, it's not about that's where people get turned around when they think about the so-called socialist countries of the 20th century, the Sino-Soviet bloc. There was no qualitative difference between self-proclaimed capitalist countries of that time and self-proclaimed socialist countries at that time, simply because the only difference was that in capitalist countries, of course, capital was divided among a whole class of capitalists, and it was all wielded to their discretion on the open market, and there were checks and balances within their ranks, of course, to this day, with the banks, the International Monetary Fund, so on and so forth. And while in self-proclaimed socialist states to this day, such as Venezuela, Cuba, the only difference is that capital is the state is the sole proprietor of capital,
Yeah.
But that's not the point of socialism. That has no qualitative difference from capitalism. The point is to move away from the most fundamental paradigms of capitalist society, that being the production of commodities and money. And what I mean by commodities is that production of objects not for their direct consumption and use, but for sale and for profit, right?
Yeah.
So so to put socialism in a sentence as best as a Marxist as myself could, it would be to say of a transition from the production of commodities for indirect use for profit and for sale towards production of what we describe in Marxist terms as use values, just basically objects for direct consumption and use. So yes, I would support any programs that provide better job security, higher wages as of now within capitalism, but the point is to move toward a society where people's livelihoods are not constantly quantified in dollars and cents, right?
Yeah.
Towards a society where work is not so desperately compulsory.
Yeah.
Right? It's, where you can just take a day off work and you're not going to be fired and you're not going to worry about paying the bills because there are no bills, right?
Yeah.
And of course that doesn't just happen. That transition doesn't just happen instantly.
Yeah, that'll take a while.
Take a while, right? And there would be, I would say, there would be a period of cooperative enterprise where capital is handled on a communal level.
Yeah.
But as soon as you start the automation process, we have the means to slowly but surely negate those paradigms.
Makes sense. It takes a lot, just to get everything together,
right.
to make.
And it has to be a global phenomenon. It can't just be limited to one country. But if it were to, on the off chance that were to happen in America, of course the stronghold of capital, the capital's global police, if that were to fall to a mass socialist movement, then I would imagine that the rest would be, pretty easy. Especially in the global South where socialist and communist movements are, still thriving. Such as, in India, they just had the largest strike in recorded history with the under the direction of their Communist Party. 150 million strikers.
I mean, there are a lot of people in India, so.
Right.
So that is a lot of people. That's like maybe like half. That's maybe like half the population of.
No, about it's a billion people.
Yeah.
So about.
I'm referring to your 150 million statistic.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, the statistics range from 150 million to 200 million. Yeah. Any more questions?
Yeah. Oh my goodness gracious. I mean, I want to try, but I mean, it's going to be hard because I know, people are probably going to be watching this to the premiere later today.
Right.
The elephants in the room here. Your appearance on Steven Crowder changed my mind last week.
Yeah.
It was a interesting watch.
Yeah.
I will admit.
Yeah. I haven't watched it myself. Too much anxiety. Yeah.
So how did you feel confronting him?
I felt. I mean, let's be honest. I felt pretty ill prepared, and I think the video makes quite evident of that. Because, of course, nobody knew about this. This wasn't announced beforehand, to the best of my knowledge, other than on, his social media circles, probably. Well, to which nobody else, nobody who doesn't, are active fans of him would really know about.
'Cause nobody here knew about this until I myself didn't know about this until about 30 minutes before. That's when I saw the post on Twitter.
I popped an all-nighter that night for a class, and I was just not. I just learned about it when I got out of class. I was not in a very good mood, obviously. And I would have done something had I been in a good mood, but I probably would have engaged in a more effective way. Looking back on it, I kind of wish I had just, gone and done like kind of like an Eric Andre deal, where I just, kind of just done avant-garde comedy the entire time and not just engage in any serious way whatsoever. Because, but because I wasn't really, because it was, even if I had been perfectly well rested and in best of moods, being surrounded by that crowd, it was.
I'm going to tell you, it got like once you had the people who wanted to speak to him and everything, and they were certainly there, but as the hours came to a head, and once you got on, it was about close to the time that he was about to leave and everything. It got gradually more conservative. I saw MAGA hats and everything.
Yeah, if I had $1 for every camo baseball cap, I'd be a pretty wealthy man. Every camo baseball cap there that day. Yeah, I mean, these are people who were saying that there's no such thing as institutional racism today in modern America. Then people who were saying that, the people in Charlottesville, those weren't Nazis. Why are you just calling everyone you don't like Nazis? So it was a fine, it's a microcosm of the so-called basket of deplorables. It was just, again, I said I shouldn't have been engaging these people seriously whatsoever, because obviously I wasn't going to get any foothold, even if I was on my best, my A game in terms of like debating and whatnot, because these people aren't there to have a debate. They're just there to have group think.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's kind of a hive mind. When you talk about pro-life and everything, it's crazy to think about. It's hard to talk about pro-life and pro-choice and everything like that. So, and the surprise, the mystique kind of wore out to me really quickly. And now that everything's coming up and all the videos and stuff are coming up on YouTube and everything, and it's going to be a crazy ride. I thought it would be kind of straightforward, the whole pro-life situation to me anyway. Because
to me, it wasn't really about pro-life that day. It was just about getting his base of people in that area just riled up, getting them together, getting them, talking together, conscious of the fact, that they are one, body, and just trying to precipitate more organization within those people, because obviously there was all the TPUSA people were there, and they're all handing out pens and stuff, and probably,
Turning Point was there. The college Republicans organized the event and everything. So that was last Friday, even though it was very cold. It was like 38 degrees outside and everything like that. But it got interesting really fast. And, hopefully, your video is probably the most interesting, honestly.
Interesting is a good word to use.
Interesting because I can't find a better word to use. But it is what it is, and just got to move on from it. People will probably be over it in like a week anyway. That's just the way it is.
They love a good villain, but they'll probably find another one within a week's time.
So with that being said, I want to thank you for coming on to the show.
Sure,
we had you kind of more discussed it to me because I'm kind of more of a listener anyway. But talking points are very, very plausible, kind of reasonable. Now that you, now that you're hearing, you have a rational mind to talk to and everything.
Right.
But,
I hope I didn't go on rambling too much.
Well, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, like I said, it's very, like I said at the beginning of this, it's a very broad topic. It's very hard to get a streamlined angle at it,
Yeah, you can't just take it head on and everything like that.
Yeah.
You gotta zigzag around the cones to get to, I guess, the promised land.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with that being said, everybody, I want to thank y'all for watching the Objective Slant this month. It's been a pleasure to come onto your television screens for the 7th time, and thank y'all so much. My name is Michael Lloyd, signing off. Thank you.